Good evening, everybody. I'm Laura Ingraham, and this is a very busy news night tonight from Washington. We begin with the curious case of Michael Cohen, and a media with a case of horrific amnesia. This morning, President Trump's former fixer, lawyer, whatever you want to call him, he sat down for an interview with his new best bud, former Bill Clinton senior advisor George Stephanopoulos. And in this interview, he offered a rather patriotic, Christmas-type hope.
The country has never been more divisive, and one of the hopes that I have out of the punishment that I've received, as well as the cooperation that I have given, I will be remembered in history as helping to bring this country back together.
He wants to make amends, does not know exactly how he's going to do it.
Is that why you think he's talking right now?
I think that's part of it. I think he's in a lot of pain.
Right, George. All Cohen's motives are entirely patriotic. He's doing this all for America, for our children and our grandchildren. It has nothing to do with the fact that Cohen wants to have his jail time shaved off in exchange for more cooperation.
You're still cooperating?
If they want me, I'm here, and I'm willing to answer whatever additional questions that they may have for me.
Right, but so you're saying there are certain areas that you can't get into because you're still cooperating with them?
Correct.
Oh, boy, did he lay it on thick. He's kind of a new man, right? He feels liberated. I like the turtleneck, too. It was kind of an Andy Williams Christmas special feel to it all. And he also wants you to know that Trump's bad, but his heart is pure as a driven snow. And yet, at times, he seemed to kind of hearken back to the days of old.
There was a lot of fun going on at the Trump Organization.
When did it change?
You know, I can't give you a specific time that it went from point A to point B. It was just a change. I will tell you that the gentleman that is sitting now in the Oval Office, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, is not the Donald Trump that I remember from Trump Tower. He's a very different individual.
Cue Barbra Streisand's The Way We Were. Well, first, he doesn't speak to the president anymore. Second, no one entering the presidency really understands it until he or she gets behind that desk in the Oval Office. The difference with this president is that even before he was sworn in, the DOJ and the FBI, led by Comey, was already scheming to remove him from office, using a phony dossier paid for by Hillary Clinton, deploying their friends in the media to spread disinformation to cement a narrative that Trump was basically spooning with Putin before, during, and after the campaign. But by the way, I was watching this morning, and at some point, he bizarrely, after painting this picture of the president as a hopeless liar, Cohen went on to say this.
There are a lot of people who would be watching who are going to be thinking, but wait a second, he lied for so long. Why should we believe him now? What's the answer to that?
What do you mean lied? Lied about what? At the Trump Organization, it's a microcosm of even just the New York real estate market. What did we lie about? It's New York real estate. Yes, it's the greatest product ever created. Is that a lie?
I'm confused. Trump was a hopeless liar, or didn't lie? The most remarkable thing about this interview, aside from its transparency, is the idea that the media, they now see Cohen as some type of almost an honest broker. That's a lot different from the way they viewed him during the campaign days.
He shouldn't be a lawyer. That's not the way you communicate. You don't go to law school to act like a thug.
Michael Cohen, the goon that he is, if he's serious about becoming president, he's got to get rid of the goons. Michael Cohen does him absolutely no favors.
This guy is a thug with a law degree and a billionaire boss.
It's a group of scumbags like Michael Cohen sitting around in cahoots with each other.
Nice to see the word scumbag used with the American flag behind him. Well, Cohen was ordered to report to jail on March 6th, so expect to see 3 more months of I'm a changed man narratives and I'm really sorry sob stories. I just can't wait to see where he ends up next. Maybe, I don't know, Rachel Ray, does she have an open booking? You know, Cohen's been stirring it up for so long, I'm sure he'd be great in the kitchen. Joining me now with reaction is Alan Dershowitz, professor emeritus at Harvard Law School, and Kim Strassel, Wall Street Journal columnist. Alan, so Michael Cohen goes from this thug, fixer, goon, as they called him, to now a media darling. I was watching the roundtable at Good Morning America, and, oh, they were empathizing with him, and it was a beautiful moment for Michael Cohen to come forward and unburden himself to George Stephanopoulos. No other motive possible for him to come forward right now. How credible are these sob stories?
Well, I've had about 250 criminal defendants that I've represented, and many of them, after they're caught, have gone on this kind of redemption tour or redemption campaign. Frankly, I think they really persuade themselves that they mean it. They persuade their family, and they want to mean it, because nobody wants to be a phony. So I suspect that deep in his heart, Cohen thinks he's a changed man. If he got out of jail, would anybody really hire him to teach ethics somewhere? I doubt that very much, but I'm sure he has mixed motives. He wants to appear to his peers and friends and families to have seen evil and redemption, and he also obviously has the secondary purpose, the secondary gain of trying to get a reduction in sentence, which I think is unlikely to happen.
Well, Kimberly, if he was going to get a sentence reduced, it would seem that it's an odd thing, because he says in the interview that he's willing to cooperate and talk to anyone at any time. I made that point this morning with Stephanopoulos. It would seem that with all the sit-downs he's had, that kind of already would have been unpacked by now.
Well, that's the really interesting point here, Lori. You know, remember, one of the reasons he got 3 years in jail is because at least the Southern District of New York was not very complimentary of him in that filing that they made with the court. They said that he'd not been very cooperative. The special counsel's filing was a little bit more generous. But, you know, that brings us to the question of him as a potential witness, which was something he discussed with Stephanopoulos, against any proceeding that might ever be brought up against President Trump in terms of these campaign finance violations that people are talking about. Given that even the Southern District didn't view him as a very credible, trustworthy, helpful person, how good of a witness in such a case would he make?
Oh, no, terrible witness. I mean, Alan, you and I put him on the stand. Not hard to you know, get him to wet his pants. Sorry, but he's not a hard guy to cross-examine. But I got to ask about this FEC issue, and we're going to move on because we got Michael Flynn stuff to get to, guys. But Hans von Spakovsky, who is a two-term FEC commissioner, he's written a pretty compelling piece for Fox News about how these types of hush money payoffs aren't criminal violations under the FEC rules, and that Cohen, they twisted his arm to plead guilty and to throw in all this stuff about the direction to influence the election and so forth. But in this case, he said this kind of payment would not be, under the facts that have been put out there so far, would not be a crime. Alan, have you looked into that?
I agree. I have looked into it. First of all, you know, when you get somebody like Cohen, as Judge Ellis put it, not only do they sometimes sing, but sometimes they compose. That is, they try to make the story a little bit better. And the idea that he may have told Trump that what he was doing was wrong or illegal, let's be very clear. The laws are very complicated, but one thing is very, very simple. Any candidate can contribute as much as he wants to his own campaign for any purpose. So if Bloomberg runs, he could decide to contribute $1 billion to the campaign. A candidate can go to the bank, take out $150,000 in cash, bring it to a woman and say, I'm giving you this to you in order to hush money so you won't talk and you won't destroy my campaign. That would not be a violation of the law. Now, there are ways in which it could become a violation of the law if corporate contributions were involved, or campaign, or failure to report, but the reporting requirements here were after the election. So essentially no harm, no foul. So I think that the American public is missing the point, and many of the media are missing the point.
It's being glossed
about
over.
Where is the crime? Where is the statute that makes this a crime?
Again, because you haven't heard the other case. I mean, when you're in court, you actually can argue the point. John Edwards did that, obviously, and Spakovsky pointed that out. He obviously cited the Edwards case as a particularly relevant in this matter. Now, I want to move on to other big stories today. The new Michael Flynn documents that dropped just a few hours ago. Remember, Tuesday night, Flynn's attorneys felt that he'd been duped by government lawyers, and further, that he was told he didn't need legal representation in that interview with the two FBI agents in January of 2017. And he responded today in part, writing, "The agents did not provide General Flynn, his lawyers, with a warning of the penalties for making a false statement under 18 U.S.C. 1001 before, during, or after the interview. Prior to the FBI's interview of General Flynn, Mr. McCabe and other FBI officials decided the agents would not warn Flynn that it was a crime to lie during an FBI interview because they wanted Flynn to be relaxed, and they were concerned that giving the warnings might adversely affect the rapport. They also said that the lack of counsel did not make Flynn lie and that he should have known better." Now, Kimberly, you wrote in the Journal that what happened to Flynn was akin to entrapment. Is there anything in today's document, and some interesting redactions we're going to get to as well, why they redacted certain things, but there's anything that you saw today that changes your thinking or maybe even solidifies it?
It's an incredibly unpersuasive document, Laura. First of all, one thing that really struck me is how defensive it sounded. We're used to these special counsel filings where they hold all the cards. This one went out of its way to also point out that Michael Flynn had lied to the press, as if that is a crime. Hopefully it's not. Most of Washington would be in jail. But, you know, and then goes through, well, he should have known better. He should have known not to. I think none of this changes the fact, Laura, that the way they set this up, and Jim Comey has essentially admitted it, is that they set it up on a casual basis. Let's have a chat. There seems to be no question that Flynn believed he was just going to sit down and go through some of these questions, when in fact what they were conducting was a formal interview, and they didn't go through any of the motions or any of the standard procedures of a formal interview.
And the question is why. And I want to hold on. I want to just read, Alan. I want you to respond to this because I know this is what you want to address. Now, this is in the government's filing that just dropped. Okay, responding to the question about the agents themselves not thinking that Flynn lied. So the interviewing agents didn't observe any indicia of deception and had the impression at the time that the defendant was not lying or did not think he was lying. Those misimpressions do not change the fact, as the defendant has admitted in sworn testimony in this district court, that he was indeed lying and knowingly made false statements to the FBI agents in a national security investigation. Those false statements were material, et cetera, et cetera. Alan, that's a cute little formulation by the special counsel's office. That's very cute. But the fact is they were twisting the arm of Flynn and threatening probably his son to get him to say, oh, yeah, I lied. But the agents themselves did not think he lied, period.
Look, on day one, when the charges were leveled against them, I came on this channel and I said he was not guilty and he should fight this, and I think he would win on a number of grounds. Look, there are two issues. Did Flynn do the right thing? No, he shouldn't have lied, no matter what the circumstances are. You don't lie to the vice president. You don't lie to the press. You don't lie to FBI agents. But the real question is what the FBI did. They asked him questions that they knew the answers to. They weren't trying to get information from him. They were trying to give him an opportunity to lie. That was the purpose. Comey basically says that. They send in agents like Strzok, and they gave him an opportunity to lie. He shouldn't have done it, but that's not the way the FBI should operate, and they should never discourage anybody from bringing a lawyer. That's why in 53 years of practice, I've never had a client sit down with the FBI. No. I've never had a client testify. They're not here to help you. They pretend they're there to help you. They pretend they're friendly, but they're there to trap you. And he fell into the trap. It's his own fault he fell into the trap. But I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about, as a civil libertarian, do we want our government officials to behave this way to help create crimes? I think the answer is not. Yeah.
They're on the hunt. And guys, there's one more question I want to ask, because the redactions are very disturbing to me. Why are redacting the agent's name who interviewed Flynn with Peter Strzok? What would be the reason for redacting the agent's name, Kim?
Well, it's unclear because his name is generally out there, and I've heard people confirm it, who this other person was. So they're filing it under, well, we just don't put the names willy-nilly of agents out there. Apparently,
it's kind of important when people think this whole thing's biased, don't you think?
Yeah.
We want to know who started this ball rolling with the investigation. We want to know all the commas, who's in between all the commas at the direction of comma, comma, comma. Who are these people who advised this thing to go forward the way it did? Comey, McCabe, and all the other people who are leaking to the media.
So, Laura, I think it's because they don't want this guy's name out there where he might get called in to talk further.
Yeah, Alan, real quick.
Well, the Congress can get his name, obviously, if they want it. But the strategy was simple. It was laid out by Judge Ellis. Let's trap as many people as we can into committing perjury, and then we'll squeeze them and try to get them to testify against Trump. A special counsel is appointed to try to uncover crimes that have already occurred. In this case, almost all the crimes were crimes that occurred after he became special counsel in many instances, and they use those crimes not because they're interested in Flynn or interested in Manafort, but because they want to squeeze him to sing or to compose, and that raises fundamental questions of civil liberties.
Now, panel, thank you so much. Great to see both of you.